So another day and another awful day in the gaming industry with game cancellations, studio closures, layoffs. It's been a major story here of 2024. I mean, that's one of the major things that has occurred. It was record numbers of cancellations, layoffs, and stuff like that. And we see a lot more of this that happened yesterday. And we'll talk about all from Ubisoft to Illfonic. Lots of bad stuff happening in that sense. Xbox literally saved someone's life. A really interesting post that I found here on X, and really a crazy story that we will look at. Sean Layden weighs in on the gaming industry development costs, as well as would PlayStation put more of their first party games on to Xbox. He has his opinions on all of that stuff, plus a couple of other things. But before we continue, if you do enjoy daily gaming news and content, make sure to hit that subscribe, share the video, like it, all of that good stuff. Let's jump into it right now. We'll start off here with the Sean Layden information. So he was talking, he's very outspoken. Sean Layden always has some opinions that I think recently, especially ever since he's joined Tencent, have not really been that crazy insightful. I mean, he's just basically, you're looking at the industry and making some common sense opinions on what is going on. I feel like this one is kind of similar to that, but at the same time missing a little bit of the boat as to what's already happening here with PlayStation games. They are already available on the Xbox platform, or at least some of them are. And I think personally going forward, their multiplayer experiences, their games as a service games will end up on Xbox. Maybe not their third person action adventure games, maybe not their God of Wars and Last of Us, but I mean, the next Bungie game is going to be there with Marathon. And I think we will see more of those styles of games land on Xbox. But he was speaking with Eurogamer, and he was questioned why first-party PlayStation 5 games would make the jump to Xbox. And specifically, they do say here, this year has been dominated at times by the talk of first-party Xbox games heading over to the PlayStation consoles. And aside from MLB The Show, they say, which doesn't really apply because that had to do with the MLB license, but there's no sign of Sony returning the favor. And I guess that's how you look at it, right? Like Bungie, their games are there, so there's more than MLB. But Sean Layden says this: I don't know what the business imperative would be to do that. PlayStation has been the leader for almost every generation it's been in. And I guess he's speaking specifically there of the console sales. He says, so the question you're asking is, should PlayStation, with that huge market lead and the momentum apparently going forward, should they build versions of their games to run on a competing platform of much smaller size and scale? As the saying goes, I don't know if the juice is worth the squeeze. How many additional sales would they get versus the brand impact, all the aggros? So that is, I mean, it's a good point in the sense that, yes, I mean, if you put games on Xbox from PlayStation, you're just basically targeting the part of the world where Xbox does well. A lot of it is North America. PlayStation, they're not competing at all with Xbox in other parts of the world. In Japan and the Asian regions, they're competing with Nintendo. They're competing with mobile and other ways to play those games. But there still would be a significant amount of sales, I think, that an Xbox platform could bring if they were to just put it on the platform itself, whether that has so many play anywhere features, whether that has just on the console. All of those types of things would, I think, improve the overall amount of money that PlayStation can make. And I think if they were to do this, it is only going to be with multiplayer. I don't see them doing this at all with their single player stuff, but they're already doing it with MLB. They're doing it with Bungie games, with Destiny. Obviously that was there previously, but they didn't take it off. They're doing it with Marathon that is going to be coming up. And let's say they acquire Kadokawa in the future, as we know they are in talks. I would be pretty surprised here if they were to take those games off of the Xbox platform. I think those will still stay there. So there will always be PlayStation games on Xbox. There is some benefit there. But if you're asking about like God of War and The Last of Us, probably not as much. So I don't really see that happening. They're expanding it out to PC. They definitely see the need to put those games in more places to make more money because of how crazy the development costs are for these games. And in fact, he even discusses this about how insane the development costs, how they've been going up, how it's unsustainable, something we've talked about a lot here on this channel as to the main reason why games have to be multi-platform. I mean, Square Enix has talked about this. I mean, that was their whole strategy change. They had to get rid of console exclusivity and specifically work with Xbox to put games there to make more money. And you would think their style of games wouldn't appeal as much to the Xbox gamer, but clearly they see the financial benefit in doing that. So you could argue that maybe PlayStation would as well. But here's what Sean Layden says about the gaming industry and just how much it does cost. So this is again an interview with Eurogamer, and he acknowledges that the industry is currently about getting more money off the same people, and that has to do with the consoles, I would say, specifically. Or if you were just a console maker, like if you were PlayStation at this point, it's how can you get more money off of your console gamers while they're now figuring out a strategy to expand more out to PC and to expand more into other places. And I think Xbox recognized this last generation. I think they recognized this a long time ago. They've talked about it, that the console market itself isn't growing as much as they would like to see it grow. And unless you're going to just continue to try to double and triple and quadruple dip off of the same people, it's just not going to work. Yeah. And you can get into some bad practices if you do try to do that stuff, which is why we're seeing that whole expansion out to more people, the cloud, Game Pass on everything. This is an Xbox ad campaign. So that is basically what is happening here. It's all being recognized across the industry that there are certain parts of it that is just stagnant and it's not growing. It's the same people that are continuously buying it. He says here, every generation, it costs twice as much to build a game. What costs 1 million on PS1 then costs 2 million, then 4 million, then 16 million. It goes exponentially. He says during the PS4 generation, which was the last I was associated with, game dev was 150 million. If you want to be top of the line, and that's before marketing. So by that math, PS5 games should eventually reach 300 million to 400 million, and that is just outright not sustainable. Continues here and says, it's like we're at the end of the 18th century and we're realizing that building cathedrals is really expensive. Can we continue to build these massive edifices to God for this incredible amount of labor and time? Or should we just build 4 walls and a roof and that's a church, right? He says, I'm afraid we've built AAA gaming into a kind of a cathedral business and it just can't grow any further. In fact, it's probably grown too far already. He says, for the longest time, we kept banging on about 100 hours of gameplay. This is going to be awesome. It's 100 hours of gameplay. Like, that's the most important thing to know. That was a metric in the early years when the average gamer was 18 to 23. And when you're 18 to 23, you're time rich and money poor. But as the average age of the gamer moved into the late 20s and early 30s, well, it's the opposite, right? Maybe you aren't money rich, but you're definitely time poor. So I think our approach is a mismatch to the markets to reality. And he makes some good points there for sure. I mean, specifically when he's talking about the cost of the games, we were seeing that 300 million with PlayStation games for sure. We saw up to 400 plus million for Concord, which was disputed amongst journalists who got proven wrong multiple times on that one. So these games are already at that point, and there has to be ways to be able to make more money off of each release that they do have. If you don't, is when you see things happen like we saw with Concord and like we are seeing just recently. I mean, we've seen this throughout the entire year where there's lots of games that tried to break in, couldn't sustain it, had to shut down, had to fail. Studios closed, games canceled. But Ubisoft has been in a world of hurt this year, and they made a huge announcement yesterday, which is the fact that xDefiant is closing down. And again, this is just the state of trying to build AAA games with these massive, massive budgets. And yes, the whole time poor thing is an absolutely valid thing here, where gamers are getting older and older. You see people gaming in their 50s, and it's just a generation that has moved with the gaming industry. And then when you have things like family and all these obligations, you just don't have that much time to spend hundreds of hours in every single game. And with games as a service games, that's what you need them to be successful. That's what these companies need. And xDefiant has officially been closed down. We have this. I'm going to read through 2 memos here. So there's going to be a lot of reading in this segment, just like there was in the last one, but because there is a lot here. xDefiant announced, I think it's only been out for about 6 months. There was a whole dispute as to whether it was actually going to close down or not. There was a report that it was going to happen. Then you saw Mark Rubin, the person who's leading this game, say that that is absolutely not true and that there was lots of engagement and the game was doing well. And now, blindsided here out of nowhere, that xDefiant is closing down in June of 2025. A failure for Ubisoft, and just more woes here that is going on with this company. But this is an internal memo that was sent out by Yves Guillemot, where he's talking about this, because there's also studio closures. And here is what it says. Hello, everyone. It has been some time since I last spoke to you, and I apologize for this silence, especially as the past months have been challenging and unsettling for Ubisoft and likely for each of you. The announcement by Mary Sophie regarding the discontinuation of xDefiant, the closure of the San Francisco Osaka studios and the ramp down of the Sydney production site is among the difficult decisions we've had to make. I want to take this opportunity to pay tribute to the tremendous work done by the xDefiant's team. Their goal was to challenge the best shooter on the market, but despite the intensity of their efforts, it was not enough. To everyone leaving Ubisoft, I want to express my deepest gratitude for the work you have accomplished and the contributions you have made. We will do everything possible to provide you with the best support during the transition phase. We want to take a firm and clear decision to enable us to concentrate our investments and forces on more profitable projects. I am well aware that given the current context, such announcements may worry you, and that's understandable. The entire industry is facing similar difficult decisions, yet often the scale of the impact is much larger. Our organization has allowed us to limit the impact of these kinds of decisions and make more targeted restructurings, and all our efforts are focused on trying to maintain this course and philosophy. We will continue working on evolving our organization to adapt to the market changes and with a long-term perspective in mind. Over the past few weeks, I've had the chance to read the results of the Ubisoft XP 2024 survey, and the vast majority of you participated. The response rate was over 86%, and you've shared your questions and concerns about the future of Ubisoft via more than 55,000 comments. I would like to sincerely thank you for your commitment, the quality of your feedback, and your collective intelligence. It's very impressive. We are compelled to take your critiques to heart, live up to your expectations, and be accountable to you and your needs. I wanted you to know that all my energy is focused on finding the means to guide Ubisoft through these turbulent times. I am working tirelessly with my team to identify the best solutions so we can maintain control of our destiny. That's an interesting point there. I'll just stop there for a second, because that is something that we have seen brought up over the last while here is, are they going to sell? Is Tencent going to buy out Ubisoft? Is that something that is going to happen? Because of the stock that has fallen, because of everything that has been going on, Star Wars Outlaws not meeting their expectations, even though they look like they are going to try to double down on that one and make it work. So maybe he is saying here, they're not ready to sell. They're going to restructure and do everything in their power so that they can continue to move forward as its own company, not under another big corporation. It continues here and says, this company, the incredible gem we've built together over the past 38 years, means everything to me. It's part of who I am. It's in my core. I'm doing everything I can to help us regain momentum so that we can continue to make Ubisoft a key player in the industry, a creator known for its unique and exceptional video games. In the coming days, some members of the executive committee will reach out to you. Cécile Rousset will share new initiatives aimed at addressing some of the questions raised by Ubisoft XP. Marie-Sophie Duaubert will present initiatives to bring back a daily focus on creation, ensuring fewer unnecessary processes and more time dedicated to what truly matters to each of us, making the best games possible. I hope that's the case. I hope they really just focus on that, because I think one of the major issues is definitely management here at Ubisoft, pushing games and things that just to try to cash in on what is kind of popular. I mean, I enjoy a lot of the Ubisoft games. Actually, one of my favorite publishers out there and developers out there, and a lot of people hate on them, but I actually enjoy most of their games. But there's a lot of stuff here in terms of management that they have just completely missed on, which I think is leading to what is happening here at the studios. It says Alain Core will provide updates on the launch of Assassin's Creed Shadows, progress made in strengthening our relationship with gamers, particularly regarding the Crew, Motorfest, and Star Wars Outlaws. So they're going to continue with Star Wars Outlaws. Thank you sincerely for the daily commitment and the quality of your work. The greatest strength of Ubisoft is its people. The strength is you. Thank you, you. So that was the internal memo that got leaked, that came out, that was sent around after the major announcement here that xDefiant is shutting down June 2025. They're closing Ubisoft San Francisco. They're closing Ubisoft Osaka. And on top of that, I think that leads to about 277 or so people that are being laid off. Now, there's some questions here as to what this means for the game. Like if you were to have purchased stuff on it, they did put this out that, again, they're sunsetting the game. It will be fully playable into June 3rd, 2025. And if you purchase the Ultimate Founders Pack, you will receive a full refund, which is a good thing. And players who made any purchases within the last 30 days will also be fully refunded. So if you made any of those purchases, you don't have to worry. They say, please know that processing time for these refunds will take up to 8 weeks. So that's what's happening here with this game. But what is crazy is just what we're seeing happen in the gaming industry with these major companies, like massive companies here. You have Sony with Concord, you have Ubisoft here with xDefiant, trying to break in to games as a service, multiplayer, first-person shooter games. It's absolutely failing. I think what's happened here, more so than anything, is that you have the tentpole games here. You have the Call of Duties, you have the Fortnites, You have CSGO on PC. Like, you have those games that people spend all of their time playing. And if you're trying to break in and grab attention from those people away from those games that they currently enjoy, it is extremely, extremely hard. People don't really want to spend that much time learning a brand new game. And the new audience of people to go and play these games is just becoming smaller and smaller, with these other ones just taking the lead. So it's going to be very hard. Multiplayer games as a service is not an easy win. And you have to ask, what does this mean for specifically, again, like with PlayStation, with Concord? They failed on that one. What are they going to do next? Because it's not going to be a guaranteed win, and they need those styles of games to bring in continuous money. And I think when you compare Xbox and PlayStation to this type of stuff, this is where Xbox has a major advantage and a major lead going forward into the future. They already have very much just huge established games as a service styles of games, like Sea of Thieves in particular, doing very well. They own Minecraft, right? They have World of Warcraft now. They have Call of Duty. So they have all of these franchises that are already very much established, that are bringing continuous money from the games as a service business style. And PlayStation doesn't have very much, and they're going to have to try to find something here. Because if a game like xDefiant fails, which, to be honest, it wasn't a bad game. I played xDefiant. I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. There were issues, of course, but it was a game that was continuously being improved, and they released it with that as knowledge from the gamers that it needed to be continuously improved. More content needed to be coming in. Tweaks needed to be made. It was a game that was supposed to have longevity, something like Rainbow Six Siege has. It just couldn't hit the mark for a lot of people who probably just went and played Call of Duty, to be completely honest, and didn't want to jump over here to play basically a shooter that was supposed to be kind of a rival to it, with its own twist, with like the Ubisoft characters and skills and everything. So craziness happening in the industry. It is not slowing down. It is not stopping with the negativity. We may even see more all the way to the last day of December here. And in fact, there's even more bad news. If you are a fan of games like Friday the 13th, Killer Clowns from Outer Space that just came out, Illfonic is seeing some layoffs and some hits here from what is happening in the industry this year. They posted on social media, the CEO and co-founder Charles Brungart said that layoffs are an acceptance of the harsh reality within the games industry. Specifically here saying, today we had to accept the harsh reality that the state of the industry has impacted us here at Illfonic. It's with the heaviest of hearts that cuts to our teams had to be made today as we realign a refined strategy. And that is, you can look at all of the announcements that all these companies make. It is the exact same thing that they are saying. Slightly different, but the exact same thing. They're all becoming just, I guess, more conservative in what they are going to be developing and putting out and spending their money in. A lot of these companies have expanded out way too far, tried to make all of these different styles of games, hired way too many people. And I think a lot of them, to be completely honest, were trying to cash in on what we saw over the pandemic was just game time going way up, purchases in the video game industry going way up. Not thinking about the future, that was all going to come back down to earth when the world returned back to normal, which we have been here now for the last couple of years. And you're seeing, I think, the hits of that hit most of the industry now. There's always a lag and delay for these things to occur. I don't think this means there's a video game crash or anything like that, but all these companies have to realign, just be more focused on the stuff that they make, and definitely rein in the cost, because the cost of developing these games are just absolutely crazy. We have this, which is, I think, a very smart move here, coming here from Warhorse Studios and Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. This game is very big. A lot of people love this series. They love the first one, so really much looking forward to the second one. But it's releasing in one of the busiest months already of 2025, and that is February, with games like Civilization. You have Avowed. I know there's a whole controversy around Avowed, so it'll be interesting to see how that does. But there's just so much stuff here releasing in February. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is one of those games. So they're taking the initiative here, and they are moving it slightly earlier in February. They're staying in February, but they are moving it to an earlier date, because I believe it was releasing pretty much on the same date as Civ 7, which would have been a massive game. I know there's different styles of games, so it may not be to the exact same crowd, but there's probably some crossover there. They do say this here for the game. Big news, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 will arrive at your homes on February 4th, 2025. With the release date pushing 1 week forward, we have a bunch more exciting news coming in the following days. And there's some more stuff here that they do say here in the tweet. A brand new story trailer drops today, so you'll be able to see that. And PC and console specs are also coming out. So not bad news. It's actually good news if you're a fan of this game. they're moving it to an earlier date for you to play it. But February is a battle between some of these biggest games. I think Monster Hunter as well is coming out in February, which I think that's going to be the best selling of them all. But that is going to be an insane month to track and look and see which one does the best. And if any of these games fail miserably because it's just in such a loaded time that there will be not enough time for gamers to be able to play all of these games or purchase them when they do release. And to end things off, we are going to talk about a crazy story that is going around on X, and that has to do with the Xbox Series S. A lot of people like to hate on the Xbox Series S. I actually really love my Xbox Series S. Overall, I think there's been more W's than L's for it throughout this generation, and this may be the biggest W of all that we are getting here from the Xbox Series S, and it really has nothing to do with playing video games, but I thought it was interesting, so I want to show it to you guys. And this comes via Brandon J. Jonesy 8828 here on X, and basically talking about how the Series S, you can see the pictures, it's completely destroyed. The controller is destroyed. The box that it was in is destroyed. How this console here, this little strong, mighty console, I guess you could say, saved his life. And this is what he says. The console saved my life, guys. The Xbox Series S. I was on my way home from my local GameStop with my Xbox in my backpack when I was struck by a truck while riding my bicycle. I managed to keep above the truck's steel bumper at first, but I eventually was dragged under. I was slammed to the ground, and still he kept going, so I assumed he didn't see me. The Xbox in my backpack prevented me from hitting my head or worse, even dying. I wasn't going to get shredded beneath the truck, so I used my left leg to attempt to slow the truck. At this point, my bike wedged my right leg, so I couldn't move it anywhere. Next thing I know, my backpack was only hanging on by my left shoulder and was slammed into the curb along with me afterwards. I look to my left and I feel the full weight of the front end of this truck roll up on my ribs and roll back off. The truck hit and dragged me 12 feet, and soon I was rushed to the hospital with only a single broken bone in my left foot and a few road rashes. I thought the Xbox was a goner, but it started up with no hesitation at all and runs games surprisingly well considering what it went through. If Xbox wasn't in my bag at the time, a lot more could have happened. This is an insane story. One of the most insane stories I think I've heard. And the fact, obviously getting hit by the truck is crazy. And thank God this person is fine and nothing worse happened. But the fact that the Xbox still starts up, I mean, that's pretty impressive in my opinion after seeing the damage that occurred to it. But that's crazy. And like I said, happy that this person is still okay. Xbox actually responded here and says, "We're so glad you're safe and hope the recovery is going well. We know you mentioned that your Xbox is still working, but we'd love to send you a new one if you'd like. Would it be okay for us to DM you?" So there you have it. Hopefully they send him an X, because I mean, you might as well at this point, since the S saved his life. Now he's going to get an upgrade hopefully to the Xbox Series X and just get the more powerful version of it. So crazy story. I just wanted to show that one off. And another W here, I guess you could say, for the S now being a lifesaver. But I'm going to end the video there, guys. If you did enjoy this video, hit that thumbs up. If you're new, hit that subscribe, and I will catch you guys in the next video.